Hi, everybody, it's me again. And today we're going to read a new Chris Van Allsburg book. It's kind of new to me. It's not one I've used in the past. And it's not only new, but it's different because it's got colorful graphics in it, beautiful paintings he's got. Usually I'm used to the pencil drawing with the hashtags or that Conti, that kind of brown color. But this one has beautiful colors. I'm not sure what he used to do them, but I thought it was paint, but I'll have to look that up. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the pictures as much as you enjoy the story, because we know that Chris Van Allsburg is not just about words, he's also about these wonderful pictures that go along with his stories. So here we go. Chris Van Allsburg, The Wreck of the Zephyr. The Wreck of the Zephyr. Once, while traveling along the seashore, I stopped at a small fishing village. After eating lunch, I decided to take a walk. I followed the path out of the village uphill to some cliffs high above the sea. At the edge of these cliffs was the most unusual sight, the wreck of a small sailboat. The old man was sitting among the broken timbers, smoking a pipe. He seemed to be reading my mind when he said, "Odd, isn't it?" "Yes," I answered. "How did it get here?" "Waves carried it during a storm." "Really?" I said. "It doesn't seem that the waves could even get that high." The old man smiled. "Well, there is another story." He invited me to have a seat and listen to his strange tale. "In our village years ago," he said, "there was a boy who could sail a boat better than any man in the harbor. He could find a breeze over the flattest seas. When the dark clouds kept other boats at anchor, the boy would sail out ready to prove to the villagers, to the sea itself, how great a sailor he was. One morning under ominous sky, he prepared to take his boat, the Zephyr, out to sea. A fisherman warned the boy to stay at port. Already a strong wind was blowing. "I'm not afraid," the boy said, "because I am the greatest sailor there is." The fisherman pointed to the seagull gliding overhead. "There's the only sailor who can go out on a day like this." The boy just laughed as he hoisted his sail into the blustering wind. Look, I see a dog, a familiar dog. The wind whistled and the rigging of the Zephyr pounded her, while through the water the sky grew black and the waves rose up like mountains. The boy struggled to keep his boat from going over. Suddenly a gust of wind caught the sail. The boom swung around and hit the boy in the head. He fell to the cockpit floor and did not move. When the boy opened his eyes, he found himself lying on a beach, and the Zephyr rested behind him. Carried there by the storm, the boat was far from the water's edge, and the tide would not carry it back to sea. The boy set out to look for help. He walked far for a long time and was surprised that he didn't recognize the shoreline. He climbed a hill expecting to see anything familiar, but what he saw instead was strange, an unbelievable sight. Before him there were two boats sailing high above the waters. Astonished, he watched them glide by. Then the third sailed past, towing the Zephyr. The boats entered the bay and was bordered by a large village. There they left the Zephyr. The boy made his way down to the harbor and the dock where his boat was tied. He met a sailor who smiled when he saw the boy. Pointing at the Zephyr, he asked, "Yours?" The boy nodded, and the sailor said they almost never saw strangers on their island. It was surrounded by treacherous reefs. The Zephyr must have been carried over the reef by the storm. He told the boy that later they would take him and the Zephyr back over the reef. But the boy said he would not leave until he learned to sail above the waves. The sailor told him it took years to learn to sail like that. Besides, he said, the Zephyr does not have the right sails. The boy insisted. He pleaded with the sailor. Finally, the sailor said he would try to teach him if the boy promised to leave the next morning. The boy agreed. The sailor went to the shed back and forth across the bay. Sometimes the sailor took the tiller and the boat would magically begin to lift out of the water. But then the boy tried. He could not catch the wind that made the boats fly. When the sun went down, they went back to the harbor. They dropped anchor, and the fishermen rowed them to shore. In the morning, the sailor said, "We'll put your boat sails back on at the Zephyr and send you home." You, he took the boy to his house, and the sailor's wife fed them oyster stew. After dinner, the sailor played the concertina. I guess it's like that little guitar. They sang a song about the man named Samuel Blue, who long ago tried to sail his boat over the land and crashed. "For the wind earls land ne'er steady nor true, and all men that sail they'll meet Samuel Blue." When he was done with the song, the sailor sent the boy to bed, but the boy could not sleep. He knew he could fly his boat if he had another chance. He waited until the sailor and his wife were asleep. Then he quietly dressed and went into the harbor. As he rowed out of the Zephyr, the boy felt the light evening wind grow stronger and colder. Uh-oh. Under the full moon, he sailed the Zephyr into the bay, and he tried to remember everything the sailor had told him. He tried to feel the wind pulling his boat forward, lifting it up. Then suddenly the boy felt the Zephyr begin to shake. The sound of the water rushed past the hull and grew louder. The air filled with spray as the boat sliced through the waves. The bow slowly began to lift. Higher and higher the Zephyr rose out of the water, then finally broke free. The sound of the rushing water stopped. There was only the sound of the wind in the sails. The Zephyr was flying. Using the stars to guide him, the boy set a course for home. The wind blew very hard, churning the sea below, but that did not matter to the Zephyr as he glided through the night sky. When the clouds blocked the boy's view of the stars, he trimmed the sails and climbed higher. Surely the men of the island never dared to fly so high. Now the boy was certain he was truly the greatest sailor of all. He steered well before the night was over. He saw the moonlit spire of the church at the edge of his village. As he drew closer to land, an idea took hold of him. He looked at the sail over the village and ring the Zephyr's bell. Then everyone would see him and know that he was the greatest sailor. He flew over the tree tops, cliffs, and shore. But as he reached the church, the Zephyr began to fall. The wind had shifted. The boy pulled as hard as he could on the tiller, but it did no good. The wind shifted again. He steered for the open sea, but the trees and the cliff's edge stood between him and the water. As at first there was just the rustle of the leaves brushing on the hull. Then the air was filled with the sound of breaking branches, ripping sails. The boat fell to the ground, and there she still sits today. "A remarkable tale," I said, as the old man stopped to relight his pipe. "What happened to the boy?" "He broke his leg that night." Of course, no one believed his story about flying boats. It was easier for them to believe that he was lost in the storm and thrown up there by waves. The old man laughed. "No, sir, that boy never amounted to much. People thought he was crazy. He just took odd jobs around the harbor. Most of the time he was out sailing, searching for the island and a new set of sails." A light breeze blew through the trees. The old man looked up. "Wind coming," he said. "I've got some sailing to do." He picked up his cane and I watched as he limped slowly toward the harbor. And that's the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you soon. Bye.